Hey guys, imagine a place where silence has a sound. It is a low, constant hum, a vibration that comes not from machines or cities but from the earth itself. Close your eyes and let your mind drift away from the four walls of your room, away from the artificial lights, and step into a world that is painted in 1,000 shades of gold and ochre. This is the great void, the endless ocean of the dry earth. To the uninitiated eye, the desert looks like a place of death, a barren wasteland where nothing grows and nothing changes. But if you look closer, if you stand very still and let your breathing slow down to match the rhythm of the wind, you will see that the desert is alive. It is a living, breathing entity, ancient and indifferent to the passage of human time. Before we can understand the people who lived here, we must first understand the arena they called home. Picture the Rub al-Khali, the empty quarter. It is one of the most inhospitable places on our planet. Here, the sun is not merely a source of light, it is a weight. It presses down upon the land with a relentless intensity, bleaching the bones of the earth and turning the air into a shimmering curtain of heat. In this place, the horizon is a lie. It shifts and dances, blurring the line between the solid ground and the pale blue sky. The dunes, rising like frozen waves in a golden sea, are never truly still. They are in a constant state of slow motion collapse and rebirth. A single grain of sand, lifted by the morning breeze, might travel for miles before settling down, only to be buried by 1 billion others before nightfall. This is a landscape that erases footprints as soon as they are made. It is a world that resists memory. And yet, for thousands of years, humans have not only walked across this burning anvil but have thrived upon it. They are the shadows in the glare, the ghosts of the dunes. We know them as the Bedouin. The word itself comes from the Arabic Badawi, meaning desert dweller. But they are more than just dwellers, they are the masters of adaptation. To the modern mind, dependent on technology, air conditioning, and GPS, the survival of the ancient Bedouin seems impossible. How does one find water in a sea of dust? How does one navigate a landscape that changes its shape with every storm? How does one survive temperatures that can blister skin in the day and freeze the blood at night? This story is not just about survival, it is about a profound relationship between man and nature. The Bedouin did not conquer the desert. You cannot conquer something that is infinite. Instead, they learned to listen to it. They learned the secret language of the sands. Imagine standing there now. The air is dry, sucking the moisture from your skin. The silence is profound, broken only by the soft hiss of sand sliding down the face of a dune. It is a sound like a whisper, a secret being told over and over again for millennia. This whisper tells of hidden aquifers deep beneath the crust. It tells of the coming storm long before the first cloud appears. It tells of the subtle shift in the stars that marks the changing of the seasons. The ancient nomads walked this land with a lightness that we have forgotten. They carried their homes on their backs and in their saddlebags. They possessed no permanent structures, left no stone ruins, and built no monuments to their vanity. Their legacy was not written in stone but in the wind. Their history is one of movement. To stop was to die, to keep moving was to live. In the modern world, we fear the unknown. We fear the dark, the silence, the empty spaces. But for the Bedouin, the empty space was freedom. It was a canvas upon which they painted their lives. They understood that the desert strips a person down to their core. There is no room for pretense here. There is no place to hide from oneself. In the vastness of the sands, a human being is small, insignificant, and fragile. And yet, there is a dignity in that fragility. As we embark on this journey together, through the hidden tricks and ancient wisdom of these desert wanderers, we will peel back the layers of history. We will look beyond the romanticized images of riders on camels silhouetted against a sunset. We will delve into the gritty, practical, and often genius methods they used to cheat death every single day. From the way they wore their clothes to trap cool air, to the way they read the ripples in the sand like a map, from the psychological fortitude required to endure weeks of isolation, to the intricate social codes that turned strangers into protected guests. Every aspect of their lives was a masterclass in efficiency. But before we learn their tricks, we must respect their world. Let the image of the endless dunes settle in your mind. Feel the warmth of the phantom sun, hear the whisper of the sands. It is a lulling sound, repetitive and soothing. It pushes away the noise of your day. It invites you to rest. It invites you to listen. The desert is waiting. The caravan is preparing to move. The sun is beginning its slow descent, painting the sky in hues of violet and burnt orange. We are standing at the edge of the known world, about to step into the void. The Bedouin believed that the desert cleanses the soul. It washes away the unnecessary, leaving only what is true. As we drift further into this story, as we follow the tracks that lead nowhere and everywhere, let yourself be cleansed by the vastness. Let the monotony of the landscape soothe your tired mind. There is no rush here. The desert has nowhere to go. It has been here for eons, and it will be here long after we are gone. We are merely guests passing through the silence, guided by those who learn to call this harsh emptiness home. So take a deep breath, let it out slowly. The journey is just beginning. The first step is not taken with the feet, but with the mind. We are leaving the comfort of the oasis. We are turning our backs on the safety of the known. Ahead lies the shimmering horizon. Ahead lies the mystery. And as the wind picks up, carrying the fine dust of ages past, it whispers to us. It beckons us to follow the ancient paths, to uncover the hidden survival tricks of the Bedouin nomads. To understand how they lived, we must first understand where they lived. We must enter the void. The boundary between the world of men and the world of the desert is not a wall. It is not a fence drawn in the sand, nor is it a sudden drop off a cliff. It is a fading. A slow, gradual disappearance of life as we know it. In the previous chapter, we stood at the edge, listening to the whisper of the sands. Now we take the first step forward. We are crossing the invisible line that separates the sown, the land of agriculture, rivers, and cities from the desert, the land of thirst. To understand the survival of the Bedouin, one must first understand the sheer audacity of entering the void. Why would any human being, given the choice of a river valley or a lush forest, choose to walk into an oven? To answer this, we must cast our minds back thousands of years, to a time when the map of the world was still being drawn by the feet of wandering tribes. The entry into the void was not a singular event. It was not a sudden invasion. It was a drift. Just as the sand dunes migrate slowly across the landscape, pushed by the prevailing winds, the ancestors of the Bedouin drifted away from the crowded centers of civilization. Perhaps it was the pressure of population, the scarcity of grazing land, or the simple, unquenchable human desire for freedom from the rules of kings and emperors. Whatever the reason, they turned their faces away from the green and looked toward the gold. Imagine the transition. As we walk away from the fertile lands of the crescent, the ground beneath our feet begins to change. The soft, dark soil, rich with moisture and life, gives way to hard-packed clay. The trees, once tall and leafy, begin to shrink. They become gnarled, twisted shapes, clinging to the earth with desperate roots. The sound of running water, the lifeblood of civilization, fades behind us until it is nothing but a memory. We are entering the transitional zone, the scrublands. Here, the heat begins to rise. It is not yet the killing heat of the deep desert, but it is a warning. The air becomes drier. The moisture in your breath evaporates the moment it leaves your lips. The sky seems to lift higher, becoming a pale, washed-out blue stripped of clouds. For the ancient nomads, this transition was a shedding of skin. To enter the void, one cannot carry the baggage of the settled world. Heavy furniture, stone statues, vast libraries of scrolls, these things have no place here. The desert demands minimalism. It demands that you carry only what keeps you alive. Everything else is a burden. Everything else will weigh you down and bury you. As they moved deeper, the landscape stripped them of their excesses. They became lighter, they became faster. They began to resemble the land itself, line, weathered, and enduring. This journey into the true desert, the Sahara or the Arabia Deserta, was impossible for thousands of years. The deep desert was a fortress, guarded by distance and thirst. Humans could skirt the edges, hugging the coastlines or darting between oases, but they could not cross the open ocean of sand. Not yet. The key to unlocking the void was a biological miracle, the domestication of the dromedary camel. This happened slowly, perhaps around 3,000 years ago. Before the camel, the Bedouin were tethered to the water holes. They were like ships without sails, drifting only as far as their limited supplies would allow. But with the camel, the ship of the desert, the impossible became possible. Now picture the caravan forming. It is early morning. The sun has not yet risen, but the eastern horizon is stained with a bruised purple light. The air is surprisingly cold. The desert, for all its association with heat, is a land of extremes. Without the blanket of humidity to hold the warmth, the temperature plummets the moment the sun sets. The nomads wrap themselves in their thick woolen cloaks. There is a quiet shuffling of feet, the soft grunt of camels rising from their knees, the clinking of wooden saddle frames. There is no shouting. In the desert, one learns to save their breath. Energy is a currency more valuable than gold, and it must not be spent on unnecessary noise. They begin to move. As the sun breaches the horizon, the world catches fire. The light hits the sand and reflects upward, creating a world of blinding luminosity. We are now truly entering the void. the scrub brush has vanished. The hard clay has shattered into gravel, and the gravel is giving way to soft, shifting dunes. This is the psychological threshold. When you look back, the green line of the horizon is gone. When you look forward, there is only the repetition of shapes. Dune after dune, ridge after ridge, stretching out into infinity. It is a terrifying prospect for the uninitiated. In the ocean, you can chart your course by the stars or the coast. In the forest, you can follow animal trails or rivers, but here the land mocks you. A storm can rearrange the entire landscape in a matter of hours. A landmark you saw in the morning might be buried by noon. The Bedouin calls this place Al-Khala, the emptiness. But as they walk, the rhythm of their movement creates a kind of hypnotic trance. Left foot, right foot, the sway of the camel, the sound of the wind, it becomes a meditation. To survive the entry, one must surrender to the scale of the place. You cannot fight the desert. If you fight, you burn energy. If you panic, your heart beats faster, you sweat more, you lose water, and you die. The Bedouin learned to enter the void with a calm submission. They moved with the land, not against it. They adopted a pace that seemed slow to outsiders, a languid, deliberate walk. But this pace could be maintained for days, weeks, without stopping. As the hours of the day stretch on, the sun climbs to its zenith, the shadows vanish, the world loses its depth, everything looks flat and two-dimensional in the glare. The heat is a physical weight on the shoulders, it presses down, heavy and suffocating. This is the crucible, this is where the weak turn back, but the Bedouin continues. They have entered a state of endurance that is almost spiritual. They are not thinking about the destination, because the destination is too far away to matter. They are thinking only of the next step, and the next, and the next. The void is not just a lack of water, it is a lack of sensory input. There are no billboards, no traffic noises, no changing colors. There is only the beige of the sand and the blue of the sky. This sensory deprivation has a strange effect on the human mind. It clears the clutter. Thoughts that seemed important in the city's status, wealth, petty arguments evaporate in the heat. In the void, you are left with only the essentials: water, shelter, direction. Companionship. The ancient nomads understood that entering this space meant entering a brotherhood of survival. Alone, a man is nothing here. A single broken leg, a single lost water skin means death. But together, as a tribe, they formed an organism that could survive. They moved as one entity, watching each other for signs of heat stroke, sharing the burden of the supplies, scouting the horizon with a collective gaze. As the afternoon wears on, the light begins to change again. The harsh white glare softens into a deep amber. Long shadows stretch out from the dunes, revealing the textures of the sand, the ripples carved by the wind, looking like the fingerprints of giants. The cooling of the air is almost immediate. It is a relief that washes over the body like cool water. The caravan slows. They look for a depression in the dunes, a place sheltered from the wind, to set up camp for the night. Entering the void is not just about walking through the day, it is about surviving the night. As the sun dips below the horizon, the sky turns a deep, velvety indigo, and then the stars appear. Nowhere on Earth are the stars as bright as they are in the desert. Without humidity or light pollution to obscure them, they burn with a fierce, cold intensity. For the Bedouin, these are not just pretty lights, they are the map, they are the clock, they are the stories of their ancestors written in the sky. The silence of the night is heavier than the silence of the day. It is absolute. If you listen closely, you can hear the blood rushing in your own ears. You can hear the settling of the sand as the temperature drops. The Bedouin have arrived. They have crossed the threshold. They are now floating in the vastness of the empty quarter. They have severed the ties with the settled world. Why did they do it? Why did they choose this life? Perhaps it is because, in the void, they found a purity that did not exist elsewhere. In the harshness of the desert, life is reduced to its simplest, most honest form. There is no room for lies here. There is only the truth of survival. They entered the void not to escape life, but to find a different kind of life. One defined by resilience, by clarity, and by an intimate, terrifying connection with the natural world. Now, as the campfires flicker in the vast darkness, tiny pinpricks of light in an ocean of black, the real challenge begins. They are here, but simply being here is not enough. Now they must find water where there is none. They must find food in a graveyard. They must navigate a shifting puzzle. The void has swallowed them. Now we must learn how they refuse to be digested. We must learn the secrets they carried with them into this emptiness. The sand is cool beneath us now. The wind has died down. The journey has truly begun. We are no longer observers on the edge. We are travelers in the deep. And the first, most pressing question that arises in the throat of every traveler is simple, primal, and urgent. Where is the water? In the vast expanse of the dunes, water is not just a resource, it is a god. It dictates where you go, how long you stay, and whether you live or die. The Bedouin did not just look for water, they listened for it. They read the signs that the earth hid from others, but that is a secret for the morning. For now, the desert sleeps, the void is calm. Let the darkness wrap around you like a heavy wool cloak. We have entered the unknown and we are still alive. The silence is our companion, the stars are our guide. And the rhythmic breathing of the sleeping earth is the only sound that remains. Drift along with the caravan in your dreams. Feel the swaying motion. The endless horizon is no longer a threat, it is a cradle. You are safe in the vastness, you are part of the void. The dawn breaks over the dunes, washing the world in a pale, diluted light. The cold of the night begins to retreat, replaced by the first gentle warmth of the rising sun. In the camp there is movement, the camels are restless, the travelers wake with dry mouths and parched throats. We have entered the void, we have accepted the silence. But now, the biological reality of our existence asserts itself. The human body is a vessel of water, moving through a landscape that seeks to drain it. To survive here, one cannot simply hope for an oasis. Hope is not a strategy, one must know how to read the book of the earth. To the unrefined eye, the desert is a monolith of dryness. Miles and miles of parched sand, cracked clay, and sun-bleached stones. It seems impossible that moisture could exist here. But the Bedouin knows a secret truth. Water is rarely absent, it is merely hidden. The desert speaks a language. It is a silent language written in codes and ciphers. It is not spoken with words, but with signs. To find water, the nomad must become a master linguist of this secret tongue. They must stop looking at the landscape as a picture and start reading it as a map. The first sentence of this language is written in the sky. As the sun begins its ascent, the Bedouin scans the horizon. He is not looking for clouds are deceivers in the desert. He is looking for life. Specifically, he is looking for the birds. But not just any bird. A hawk soaring high in the thermal currents tells you nothing of water. The hawk is a predator, it gets its moisture from the blood of its prey. It can survive for days without drinking from a pool. Seeing a hawk is majestic, but it offers no salvation to the thirsty. The Bedouin looks for the sand grouse, or as they call it, the kata. This small, pigeon-like bird is the guardian of the desert's secrets. It is a creature of habit. Unlike the wandering nomad, the sand grouse is tethered to the water. It must drink every single day. And so every morning, just as the light turns golden, flocks of sand grouse take flight. They fly fast and they fly low. Their wings make a distinctive whistling sound, a rhythmic chatter that cuts through the silence. If you see them flying in the morning, watch their direction. They are flying away from the water, heading out to the feeding grounds. But if you see them at dusk, or if you catch them in the very first light of dawn, follow them. They are flying toward the well. The Bedouin trusts the sand grouse more than he trusts his own eyes. If a flock is flying straight and purposeful, not circling or hunting, they are an arrow pointing directly to a hidden spring. The nomad marks their trajectory against the shape of the distant mountains. He draws an invisible line in his mind. Somewhere along that line, the earth holds water. But the birds are not the only words in this secret language. Sometimes the sky is empty. Sometimes the silence is unbroken by wings. Then the Bedouin must look closer. He must look at the ground. He looks for the insects. A single bee is a beacon of hope. A bee is a fragile worker. It cannot travel more than a few miles from its hive, and a hive cannot exist without water. To see a bee buzzing around a dry shrub is to know that moisture is near. The nomad watches the bee. When it is full, it will fly in a straight line back to its home. This is the beeline. Following it requires patience and sharp eyes, but it rarely lies. Even the annoying presence of flies is a good omen. Flies are lazy creatures. They do not venture far into the deep, dry desolation. If there are flies pestering the camels, it means there is dampness nearby, perhaps a hidden seep in a canyon wall or a patch of mud under a rock overhang. The language of water continues in the flora. The plants of the desert are not all the same. Some are opportunists, living only for a few weeks after a rare rain and then dying, leaving behind seeds that sleep for years. These plants tell you nothing of the groundwater. But the Bedouin looks for the perennials. He looks for the tamarix tree. The tamarix is a survivor. Its leaves are thin and feathery to reduce evaporation, but its true secret lies underground. The roots of a tamarix tree can bore down 30, 40, even 50 feet through the sand and rock to tap into the water table below. Seeing a cluster of green tamarix in a valley of brown is a clear sign. It says there is water here, but you must work for it. The tree is drinking from a source that is out of reach to the hands, but not out of reach to the shovel. Then there is the language of the stones themselves. The geology of the desert is a frozen narrative of water's past journey. The Bedouin looks for the wadi, the dry riverbed. These are the scars left by ancient floods. Even when the surface is bone dry, the geometry of the wadi funnels rainwater underground. The nomad walks along the curve of the dry river. He looks for the outside bend of the channel, where the water would have flowed with the most force, cutting deep into the earth. Here, the bedrock might form a bowl, trapping pools of water beneath the sand long after the surface has dried. He looks at the color of the sand. It is a subtle difference, invisible to the untrained eye. But to a man who has lived his life in a world of beige, a slight darkening of the grains is a shout. It suggests that moisture is wicking up from below, holding the sand together, changing the way it reflects the light. And then there is the wind. The Bedouin stops and turns his face to the breeze. He closes his eyes. He inhales deeply, engaging the most primal of senses. A dry wind smells of dust and heated stone. But a wind that has passed over water, even a small, stagnant pool hidden in a cave, carries a different scent. It smells of wet clay. It smells of life. It is the scent of petrichor, faint and fleeting but unmistakable to the desperate. Sometimes the sign is auditory. In the deep silence of a canyon, sounds echo. The nomad might press his ear against a solid rock wall. Rock is a better conductor of sound than air. The faint, rhythmic dripping of water deep inside a fissure can travel through the stone, vibrating against the listener's ear like a secret heartbeat. This constant state of observation creates a unique psychological state. The Bedouin is never truly lost in the way a city dweller might be. He is constantly reading the environment. Every rock, every shadow, every tuft of dry grass is data. Imagine the patience required for this. You are thirsty, your throat feels like sandpaper, the sun is beating down on your neck. The instinct is to panic, to run, to dig frantically at the first soft spot you see. But the Bedouin remains calm. He knows that panic burns water. He knows that random digging is a waste of precious energy. He waits. He watches the flight of the sand grouse. He follows the bee. He studies the roots of the tamarix. He is assembling the puzzle pieces in his mind. He is triangulating. The birds fly this way, the wadi curves that way. The plants are greener here, where these lines intersect, that is the spot. It is a profound connection to the earth. The modern man dominates nature. He pipes water from hundreds of miles away. He bends the river to his will. The nomad negotiates with nature. He asks the earth politely and he listens for the answer. Finding the spot is not the end, it is only the middle of the story. The desert does not give up its treasure easily. The water is there, but it is locked away. It is shielded by feet of burning sand and layers of hard-packed gravel. As the sun climbs higher, reaching its zenith, the Bedouin stops. He has found the sign he was looking for. Perhaps it was a damp patch of sand in the shadow of a large boulder. Perhaps it was the congregation of small beetles near the base of a dune. He dismounts from his camel. The animal, sensing the water before the man does, begins to sniff the ground, letting out a low, gurgling sound of anticipation. The nomad stands over the spot. To you or me, it looks like any other patch of dirt in a million square miles of dirt. But to him, it is a vault. He has read the secret language. He has deciphered the code. He unhooks the digging stick from his saddle. The search is over. The labor is about to begin. The silence of the search is replaced by the anticipation of discovery. The desert has spoken. And now the nomad must answer. The relationship between the Bedouin and the water is one of reverence. Water is not just a chemical compound here, it is the essence of God's mercy. To find it is a blessing, to waste it is a sin. As we stand here visualizing this moment, we can feel the shift in the atmosphere. The anxiety of the void is replaced by focus. The vast, overwhelming emptiness shrinks down to this one small circle of sand. The entire world narrows to a single point. The secret language of water has guided us here. We have listened to the whisper of the sands, we have entered the void, and now we have read the signs. The hidden aquifer lies beneath our feet, waiting in the cool dark. But finding the X on the map is not the same as holding the gold. The water is close, but it is still out of reach. We must now learn the art of retrieval. We must learn how to construct a well in the wasteland, how to filter the mud from the lifeblood, and how to do it all before the sun drains the last of our strength. The birds have flown on. The bees have returned to their hives. The wind continues to blow. The desert keeps its secrets from those who do not know how to listen, but we are learning. Rest your mind on this image, a lone figure standing in the vastness, looking down at the sand with certainty. He knows, the earth has told him, and in this knowledge there is peace. The panic of thirst fades, replaced by the quiet confidence of survival. Sleep now with the knowledge that the water is there. It is always there for those who know where to look. The desert is not empty, it is full. It is just waiting to be read. The decision has been made, the spot has been marked. The nomadic detective has solved the riddle of the landscape, and now the laborer must take over. We stand at the intersection of hope and hard work. Beneath the soles of the Bedouins' feet, perhaps 3 feet down, perhaps 6, lies the water. It is close enough to smell, yet far enough to be a memory. To reach it, one must engage in a battle with the earth itself, and the earth does not yield easily. In the modern world, we think of a well as a permanent structure, a deep shaft lined with stone or concrete, topped with a bucket and a pulley. But in the shifting survival of the desert, a well is often a fleeting thing. It is a temporary wound in the earth, opened just long enough to sustain life, and then healed by the wind as soon as the caravan moves on. The Bedouin calls this a thamel, a shallow, unlined water pit. The digging begins not with a shovel, for iron is heavy and rare in the deep desert. It begins with the hands. Or perhaps with a simple wooden bowl called a badil, or the bleached shoulder blade of a camel that died years ago. These are the tools of the trade: bone, wood, and skin against the abrasive grain of the silica. Imagine the motion. It is a rhythm: scoop, lift, toss, scoop, lift, toss. The surface sand is hot, baked by the relentless sun. It burns the fingers. It is dry and loose, flowing like water. As the nomad digs, the sand tries to flow back into the hole. It is a fluid solid, constantly seeking its own level. To dig a hole in dry sand is like trying to dig a hole in water. The moment you remove a scoop, the surrounding grains slide down to fill the void. This is where the engineering wisdom of the ancients comes into play. You cannot dig straight down. If you do, the walls will collapse and the desert will bury you in a suffocating embrace. Instead, the Bedouin digs a wide, shallow bowl. He expands the circumference. To go down 1 foot, he must clear 3 feet of width. It is a tremendous amount of earth to move. The pile of excavated sand grows on the rim of the pit, a miniature mountain range rising as the man sinks lower. As he digs deeper, the temperature changes. The top layer of sand is scorching, but 6 inches down it is warm. 12 inches down it is neutral. 2 feet down the sand is cool. There is a relief in this coolness. As the nomad descends into the earth, he is entering a different climate. The walls of the pit begin to offer shade. The noise of the wind above grows fainter, blocked by the rim of the excavation. In the hole there is only the sound of breath and the shhhh of shifting sand. The texture of the ground changes. The loose, wind-blown sand gives way to harder, packed earth. This is the ancient layer, undisturbed for centuries. Here the digging becomes harder, but the walls are more stable. Sometimes the sand is too loose. It refuses to hold its shape. In these moments, the Bedouin must use whatever the desert offers to shore up the walls. He might use bundles of dried desert scrub, the twisted branches of the ratama bush, pressing them into the sides of the pit to create a skeletal framework. He might use flat stones found in the wadi bed. It is a delicate architecture built not to last for centuries but to last for an hour. The depth increases. The man is now waist-deep in the earth. His body is coated in a fine layer of dust, turning him the same color as the land. He has become part of the geology, and then the color changes. The sand at the bottom of the pit is no longer pale beige. It is turning a darker shade of brown. It is heavy. It clumps together moisture. The digging slows down. This is the critical moment. If he digs too fast, he might disturb the silt and turn the water into an undrinkable slurry of mud. He switches from the large scoop to the cupped hand. He gently scrapes away the damp earth. Slowly, agonizingly slowly, the water begins to seep in. It does not gush. There is no geyser. It is a blid. Tiny droplets ooze from the capillary spaces between the sand grains. They pool together in the bottom of the depression. A teaspoon, a cup, a quart. The water is rarely clear. It is usually brown, turbid, and thick with suspended clay. To the modern eye, it looks like dirty runoff. It looks undrinkable. But to the Bedouin, it is the most beautiful sight in the universe. It reflects the face of the digger. It reflects the circle of the sky above. But one cannot simply drink this mud. To drink it now would be to swallow grit that could damage the stomach and teeth. It must be purified. The Bedouin uses the physics of time. He climbs out of the pit and waits. He sits on the edge of the excavation watching. Gravity is the filter. Over the course of 30 minutes or an hour, the heavy particles of sand and clay begin to settle to the bottom. The water at the top becomes clearer. If the water remains too muddy, he uses his clothing. He takes the shemagh or gutra, the headscarf woven of cotton, and stretches it over the mouth of his water skin. He pours the muddy liquid through the cloth. The weave of the fabric catches the grit, allowing only the liquid to pass. It is a slow process. The water drips drop by drop into the leather bag. Sometimes the water is bitter. In the desert, groundwater can be saline, picking up salts from the ancient seabeds. This brackish water is hard to swallow. But the Bedouin knows that even bad water sustains life. They mix it with camel milk to mask the taste, or they sip it in small quantities to accustom the body. The first drink is a ritual. Imagine the sensation. The throat is parched, the tongue is swollen, the water is cool, pulled from the depths where the sun cannot reach. As it touches the lips, it sends a shockwave of relief through the nervous system. It is not just hydration, it is a resurrection. But the nomad does not drink his fill yet. The law of the desert dictates that the animals come first. The camel, the ship that carried him here, must be watered. He pours the water into a leather trough or perhaps into a hollowed-out rock. The camels crowd around, their long necks dipping down. The sound of their drinking, a loud, rhythmic slurping, is the music of success. They can drink 30 gallons in minutes. The man works tirelessly, bailing the water from the small pit bucket by bucket until the beasts are satisfied. Only then does the man rest. He sits in the shade of the pit he has dug. The temperature down here is perhaps 20 degrees cooler than the surface. It is a natural air conditioner. He leans back against the wall of cool sand. He closes his eyes. The labor is done. The anxiety of the search is over. The biological imperative has been met, but this well is not permanent. As the caravan prepares to leave, the question arises: do we leave it open or do we close it? If they plan to return this way soon, they might cover the opening with a large flat stone and bury it under a layer of sand to hide it from others. They mark the spot with a subtle sign, a specific arrangement of rocks that looks natural to a stranger but is a beacon to the tribe. If they do not plan to return, they leave it to the wind. Within days, the breeze will push the sand back into the hole, the walls will crumble, the depression will fill. The landscape will heal itself, erasing all evidence that a man ever stood here, ever dug here, ever drank here. This is the ephemeral nature of survival in the wasteland. You do not conquer the land, you borrow from it. You borrow a cup of water, a patch of shade, a few hours of life, and then you give it back. The sun is beginning to lower in the sky. The shadows of the dunes are lengthening, stretching out like dark fingers across the gold. The water skins are full. The camels are hydrated. The tribe is ready to move again. But the water they have consumed is not just for now. It must last. They are leaving the well, but they must carry the essence of the well within them. Finding water is one thing. Keeping it is another. As they mount their camels and rise back into the burning air, they begin the process of conservation. They must now lock this moisture inside their bodies. They must stop the sun from stealing back what they have worked so hard to take. The digging stick is put away. The leather bucket is folded. The desert floor is smooth once again. We leave the scene of the well. We follow the tracks leading away from it. The body is replenished, but the journey is long. Now we must learn the art of retention. We must learn how to hold on to life when the air itself tries to suck it out of you. The water is in the blood now, and the Bedouin has tricks to keep it there. Tricks of breathing, tricks of walking, tricks of the mind. The caravan moves on, silent ghosts in a silent land, carrying the ocean inside them. We have found the water. We have pulled it from the reluctant earth, filtered it through the weave of our cloth, and allowed it to enter our bodies. The thirst is quenched. The cells are rehydrated. The immediate danger of death has receded. But in the desert, relief is temporary. The moment you drink, the battle shifts. It shifts from finding water to keeping it. The human body is, in essence, a leaky vessel. We are bags of saline water walking through an environment that wants to turn us into dust. The sun is a thief. The wind is a sponge. Every second of exposure is a transaction where the desert tries to withdraw moisture from your skin, and you must refuse to pay. This brings us to the most subtle, yet most profound skill of the Bedouin, the art of water conservation. This is not a tool you hold in your hand like a digging stick or a sword. This is a discipline of the body. It is a rewriting of the autonomic nervous system. The ancient nomads learned to turn their own bodies into fortresses, sealing the gates to prevent the precious liquid from escaping. The first gate is the mouth. Observe a Bedouin in the deep desert. You will rarely see his mouth open. To open the mouth is to invite the enemy in. When you breathe through your mouth, you exhale moisture. The wet, warm air from your lungs hits the dry, hot air of the desert, and the water evaporates instantly. It is lost forever. A man breathing through his mouth in the Sahara can lose liters of water a day simply by existing. The Bedouin practices strict nasal breathing. It is a technique that requires constant mindfulness until it becomes instinct. The nose is not just a hole in the face, it is a complex machine. Inside the nasal cavity, there are turbinates, ridges of bone and tissue that act as a climate control system. When the hot air enters, the nose cools it before it reaches the lungs. When the moist air leaves the lungs, the nose captures that humidity before it can escape into the atmosphere. The nose is a condenser. By breathing only through the nose, the nomad recycles his own water. He keeps the moisture circulating within the closed loop of his body. It is a small difference in a single breath, but over the course of a 12-hour march, it is the difference between life and death. This discipline extends to speech. We in the modern world are accustomed to constant noise. We talk to fill the silence. We talk to express trivial thoughts. But in the void, words are expensive. Every word requires an exhalation. Every sentence rides on a wave of moist breath. To talk is to bleed water. So the Bedouin cultivates silence. This is why the desert nomads are often described as stoic or taciturn. It is not because they have nothing to say. It is because they cannot afford the price of the conversation. They developed a language of gestures. A lift of the chin, a flick of the hand, a narrowing of the eyes. These signals convey complex messages without the cost of a single drop of moisture. When they do speak, it is soft. It is low. Shouting is an act of violence against one's own body. To shout is to force air out rapidly, drying the throat and increasing the heart rate. The Bedouin speaks in a murmur, a sound that barely disturbs the air. The second gate is the skin. Sweat is the body's cooling mechanism. When we overheat, we sweat, the sweat evaporates, and we cool down. It is a brilliant system in a jungle or a meadow. But in the desert, sweat is a fatal error. If you sweat, you lose water. If you lose water, the blood thickens. If the blood thickens, the heart must work harder to pump it. The body heats up more, you sweat more. It is a death spiral. The Bedouin has mastered the art of not sweating. This sounds impossible. How can one not sweat in 120-degree heat? The answer lies in the regulation of effort. Watch the way a nomad walks. There is no urgency, there is no sharp, jerky movement. The stride is long, fluid, and languid. It is a glide. They move at a pace that sits exactly on the threshold of exertion. If they walk any faster, the heart rate rises and the pores open. If they walk any slower, they will never reach the next well. They find the golden mean of movement. It is a hypnotic rhythm. Left, right, they do not fight the gravity, they work with it. They do not climb a dune if they can walk around it. They do not run. To run in the desert is suicide. This physical discipline is matched by a mental one. Modern science tells us that stress triggers the fight or flight response. This floods the body with adrenaline, raises the body temperature, and triggers sweating. A panicked man is a wet man. The Bedouin masters his mind to save his water. He practices a form of radical acceptance. When the heat becomes oppressive, he does not get angry, he does not fret, he does not wish he was elsewhere, he accepts the heat. He relaxes his muscles. He slows his heart rate through sheer force of will. By remaining calm, by refusing to let the mind race, he keeps his metabolic rate low. He becomes like a lizard, still and cool inside, even when the world outside is an oven. The third gate is the digestion. Eating generates heat. The process of breaking down food, thermogenesis, raises the body's internal temperature. A heavy meal in the middle of the day is like lighting a furnace in the stomach. The nomads eat sparingly during the sunlit hours. A few dates, a sip of curdled milk, just enough to keep the sugar levels up, but not enough to trigger the heavy work of digestion. They wait until the sun has set, until the cool air of the night has arrived, to eat their main meal. They fuel the body only when the engine has cooled down. And then there is the timing of life itself. The Bedouin organizes his entire existence around the sun. He is nocturnal by necessity. When the sun is at its zenith, the eye of wrath, the tribe stops. They create the siesta, but this is not the lazy nap of a vacationer. This is a survival strategy. They set up the black tents. They dig shallow depressions in the sand to reach the cooler earth. They lie down and cease all movement. During these hours from noon until late afternoon, the camp is like a graveyard. No one moves, no one speaks. Even the animals kneel and close their eyes. They enter a state of suspended animation. They lower their metabolic rate. They wait out the enemy. They let the sun rage above them, while they hide beneath the thin fabric of their tents, preserving their internal oceans. This art of conservation changes the way a human looks. A desert nomad is rarely muscular in the way a gym-goer is. Big muscles require water to maintain. They generate heat. The desert body is lean. It is wiry. It is efficient. It is stripped of all excess. It is a body designed for endurance, not explosive power. As we visualize this, imagine the sensation of being sealed. You are aware of your own moisture. You can feel the dampness of your breath and you hold it in. You can feel the urge to speak and you swallow it. You can feel the impulse to rush and you slow it down. You are a closed system. You are a universe of water moving through a universe of fire. The two must never meet. The discipline is rigid, but it is also beautiful. It creates a gracefulness in the people. A slow, deliberate elegance. They do not spill, they do not waste. They treat every drop of fluid in their veins as if it were a diamond. The sun begins to dip lower. The shadows lengthen again. The fiercest heat of the day has passed. The tribe begins to stir. They have survived another day of the siege. They have kept the water inside. They are still strong. The camels rise. The tents are struck. The silence of the rest period is broken by the soft sounds of preparation. The conservation phase is over. The movement phase begins. Now they must face the next challenge. The sun is leaving, taking the light with it. The desert is about to become a sea of shadows. The landmarks will disappear in the gloom. They have the water, they have the energy. But now they need the direction. How do you find your way in a landscape that changes shape every day? How do you navigate a sea where the waves are made of sand? The art of water conservation has kept them alive. Now the art of navigation must take them home. The caravan forms a line. The leader looks out at the shifting dunes. He is not looking for road signs. He is reading the shape of the wind frozen in the sand. Breathe in through your nose, hold it. Breathe out through your nose, feel the calm. You are ready to move. You are safe within your own skin. The journey continues. The caravan is moving. The silence of the rest period has been replaced by the soft, rhythmic thudding of camel hooves on the packed sand. We have conserved our water, we have steeled our minds, and now we face the open ocean. Look around you. To the untrained eye, the world has lost its meaning. There are no road signs here. There are no paved paths. There are no mountains on the horizon to aim for. There is only the repetition of the wave. Dune after dune, crest after crest, trough after trough. It is a hall of mirrors, a landscape that repeats itself into infinity. In every direction, the view is identical, a rolling sea of gold under a dome of blue. How does one find a path through a labyrinth that has no walls? How does the Bedouin know that home lies to the north, when north looks exactly like south? To understand this, we must change the way we look at the ground. We must stop seeing the dunes as random piles of sand. They are not random, they are precise. They are the result of physics, of wind, and of time. The desert is not a chaotic mess. It is a meticulously drawn map if you know how to read the language of the wind. The Bedouin navigator rides at the front of the column. He does not hold a compass. He does not look at a map. He looks at the shape of the earth. He knows that the sand is a fluid. It flows like water, only slower. And like water, it is shaped by the currents of the air. The wind is the architect of the desert. It blows consistently from a specific direction for months at a time. This is the prevailing wind. Imagine the wind blowing from the northwest. As it carries the grains of sand, it pushes them up a gentle slope. This is the windward face. It is a long, gradual incline, smooth and hard-packed. The camels can walk up this slope easily. But when the sand reaches the top, the crest of the dune, it spills over the edge. It falls into the vacuum created on the other side. This creates the slip face. The slip face is steep. It is soft. It stands at a precise angle, the angle of repose, usually about 32 to 34 degrees. It is the shadow side, the sheltered side. The Bedouin looks at a dune and sees a compass. The long, gentle slope points to where the wind is coming from. The steep, sharp drop-off points to where the wind is going. If the prevailing winds of the season blow from the north, then every single dune in this ocean of sand is an arrow pointing south. He reads the geometry of the landscape. He sees the Barkhan dunes, crescent-shaped mounds that look like croissants lying on the desert floor. The horns of the crescent always point downwind. They are nature's way of saying, go this way. He sees the safe dunes, long sword-like ridges that can stretch for miles in straight lines. These are formed by winds that shift and change, and reading them requires a more subtle eye. But the Bedouin knows the pattern. He knows the history of the storms. This navigation is fractal. It works on the massive scale of mountains, and it works on the tiny scale of inches. The nomad looks down at the ground near his camel's feet. He sees the ripples in the sand. Tiny, miniature dunes no higher than a finger's width. These ripples mimic the shape of the giants. They too have a windward side and a slip face. They too align themselves perfectly with the cardinal directions. So even if a sandstorm obscures the horizon, even if the giant dunes are hidden in dust, the ground at his feet tells him the truth. The ripples are the compass needle etched into the earth, but reading the shape is only half the skill. The other half is reading the light. In the desert, time is not measured by a clock on the wrist. It is measured by the length of the shadow. Early in the morning, the sun is low. The shadows are long and dramatic. They stretch out across the sand, turning the dunes into a high-contrast landscape of bright gold and deep black. This is the best time to navigate. The texture of the ground is revealed. Every dip, every rise is highlighted. The map is clear. But as the day wears on, the sun climbs higher, the shadows shrink, the contrast fades. By noon, the Eye of Wrath is directly overhead. The shadows disappear entirely beneath the camels. The world becomes flat. The depth perception vanishes. A hole in the ground looks the same as a flat patch of sand. A drop-off becomes invisible until you are falling over it. This is the whiteout. In this blinding, shadowless glare, the Bedouin relies on intuition and memory. He uses his own body as a sundial. He watches the shadow of his camel's neck. He knows that at this time of year, at this latitude, the sun should be slightly to his left. If the shadow shifts, he knows he has drifted off course. He keeps a mental map in his head. This is not a map of landmarks, for there are none. It is a map of rhythm. He counts the time. We have walked for 3 hours towards the morning sun. Now we must turn. He feels the direction in his bones. It is a sense of orientation that modern humans have lost, a magnetic pull that guides the migratory bird and the desert nomad alike. And then there are the lies of the desert. The Bedouin must learn to ignore his own eyes. The heat does strange things to the light. As the temperature rises, the air near the ground expands. It bends the light rays, acting like a lens. The mirage. To the thirsty traveler, it looks like a lake, a shimmering pool of blue water hovering just above the horizon. It reflects the sky. It looks cool, it looks inviting. It beckons you to come, to drink, to rest. But the Bedouin does not even turn his head. He knows it is a ghost. He knows that water does not shimmer like that in the distance. Real water in the desert is dark. It absorbs the light. The mirage is a trick of the atmosphere, a reflection of the sky on a layer of hot air. To chase a mirage is to walk into death. It moves as you move. It stays forever just out of reach, luring you deeper and deeper into the emptiness until your strength is gone. The nomad has trained his mind to see the truth. He looks through the shimmer. He looks for the solid. He looks for the slight change in the color of the sand that indicates a change in the geology. Perhaps he sees a faint grayness on the horizon. To you, it looks like a cloud. To him, it is a reflection of a salt flat, miles away. Perhaps he sees a slight darkening of the blue sky in one specific spot. He knows this is water sky, the reflection of a distant oasis bouncing off the moisture in the air. He reads the debris, a dried twig blown by the wind, a camel skeleton half buried. These are not trash, they are breadcrumbs. They tell a story of who passed here and when. The journey continues through the burning afternoon. The world is silent save for the wind. The visual monotony is hypnotic. It induces a trance state. The mind wanders, but the internal compass stays locked. Left foot, right foot, keep the sun on the right shoulder. Watch the angle of the ripples. Ignore the shimmering lake. It is a test of faith, faith in the signs of nature, faith in the knowledge passed down from father to son for 100 generations. As the afternoon begins to fade, the world changes again. The sun dips lower, the shadows return, the landscape regains its depth. The dunes turn from blinding white to a soft, rich apricot, then to a deep, burning orange. The texture of the sand becomes velvet. The wind often dies down at this hour, leaving a stillness that is profound and heavy. The Bedouin navigator scans the horizon. He is looking for a place to stop. He is reading the dunes not for direction now, but for shelter. He looks for a bowl, a depression between high dunes, a place where the wind will skip over their heads. A place where the warmth of the day will linger in the sand for a few hours after sunset. He signals the halt. The camels know, they slow down, they kneel, the day's navigation is done. They have crossed a portion of the ocean without a single landmark, guided only by the shape of the waves and the position of the fire in the sky. But the journey is not over. The desert is about to undergo its most dramatic transformation. As the sun touches the horizon, the colors shift rapidly. Purple, indigo, charcoal, the light is sucked out of the world. The map of the dunes, the slopes, the slip faces, the ripples is about to be erased by the dark. The visual cues are vanishing. The familiar shapes of the earth are dissolving into shadow. For a traveler from the city, this is the time of fear, the time of blindness. But for the Bedouin, this is merely a changing of the guard. The Earth is fading, but the ceiling is opening up. The daytime map is being rolled away and the nighttime map is being unfurled. The nomad looks up. The first star appears. A tiny, cold diamond in the deepening blue. He smiles. The day belongs to the sun, but the desert belongs to the stars. The true navigation, the most ancient and precise wayfinding, is about to begin. The dunes have done their job. They have guided him through the furnace. Now he waits for the celestial ocean to guide him through the freeze. Rest your eyes now. The glare is gone. The shimmering heat has vanished. The world is becoming cool and dark. The complex geometry of the sand is softening into a blur. You do not need to look at the ground anymore. The horizon is lost in the darkness. We are floating now, waiting for the lights to turn on. Waiting for the ancient map of the heavens to reveal the way home. The sun has vanished. The last streak of violet light has been swallowed by the western horizon. The great furnace of the day has been extinguished. Now the world changes. The desert, which was a flat canvas of beige and gold, dissolves into a void of absolute black. There are no streetlights here. There is no glow from a distant city. There is only the earth cooling rapidly beneath our feet and the sky opening up above our heads. For the city dweller, darkness is a barrier. It is a time to go indoors, to turn on the artificial lights to shut out the night. But for the Bedouin nomad, the darkness is a liberation. The night is not a wall, it is a window. We have navigated the ocean of sand using the waves of the dunes. Now we must navigate the ocean of time using the lights of the heavens. Lift your eyes from the invisible ground. Look up. In the dry, crystal-clear air of the desert, where there is no humidity to scatter the light, the sky does not look like a flat surface. It looks deep. It looks three-dimensional. It is a crushing weight of glory, a billion distinct points of light burning with a cold, silver intensity. This is the celestial map. It is the oldest map in existence, drawn not on paper or skin but on the fabric of the universe itself. And unlike the shifting dunes that change with every storm, this map is eternal. It is the one constant in a life of movement. The Bedouin calls the stars his friends. When he is alone in the vast emptiness, miles from the nearest human being, he looks up and sees faces he knows. He sees stories he has heard since childhood. He is never truly alone, for the sky is crowded with companions. But these lights are more than just company, they are instruments of precision. To find his way, the nomad looks for the anchor. He scans the northern sky. He is looking for a star that does not dance. Most stars rise in the east and set in the west, moving across the sky like travelers. But there is one star that sits still, a fixed nail in the spinning wheel of the night. Alja, the North Star. Polaris, it is not the brightest star in the sky. That is a common misconception. It is humble, steady, and unwavering. It sits almost exactly above the Earth's rotational axis. While the rest of the universe seems to swirl around it in a great cosmic ballet, Alja remains frozen. The Bedouin knows that if he keeps Alja on his left shoulder, he is walking east. If he keeps it on his right, he is walking west. If he walks towards it, he is heading north into the cooler lands. If he puts his back to it, he is heading south deeper into the heat. But how does he find this modest star in a sea of millions? He uses the pointers. He looks for the Great Bear, Ursa Major, or as the Arabs call it, Banat Nash, the daughters of the beer. He sees the shape of the coffin and the mourners following it. He takes the two stars at the front of the cup and draws an invisible line across the black void. 5 times the distance, and there it is, the anchor. Once the north is found, the rest of the world falls into place. But the desert is wide, and sometimes the North Star is obscured by a low range of hills or a drift of dust. So the nomad must know the others. He looks to the south. He looks for the second brightest star in the sky, the jewel of the southern hemisphere, Canopus or Suhail. Suhail is a star of heavy legend. It is said that when Suhail rises, the night cools. Its appearance marks the end of the scorching summer and the beginning of the agreeable season. It is a calendar as much as a compass. When the Bedouin sees Suhail glittering low on the southern horizon, he knows that the date harvest is approaching. He knows that the camels will soon grow their winter coats. Between the North Star and Suhail, the nomad reads the sky like a book. He sees the Milky Way, the river of heaven. In the pitch black of the deep desert, the Milky Way is not a faint smear. It is a bright, textured ribbon of cloud. It looks like milk spilled across a table of obsidian. It stretches from horizon to horizon, a bridge of light. The Bedouin knows the orientation of this river at different times of the night. He can use it to maintain a general bearing without having to constantly check specific stars. He walks under the arch of the galaxy, a tiny speck of life moving in alignment with the architecture of the cosmos. There is a profound silence to this navigation. There are no instruments to check. No clicking of devices, just the silent observation of angles. The Bedouin uses his body to measure the stars. He uses the camel concept, an ancient method of celestial navigation. He extends his arm fully. He uses the width of his fingers to measure the height of a star above the horizon. 1 finger, 2 fingers, a full hand width. By measuring the altitude of the North Star, he can tell his latitude. He knows how far north or south he is. If the star is 4 fingers high, he is in one territory. If it sinks to 2 fingers, he has traveled far to the south. His own hand becomes a sextant. His body becomes the bridge between the earth and the sky. This navigation requires a deep internalized clock. The sky is not static, it is a clock face that rotates. The constellations that are in the east at sunset will be overhead at midnight and in the west by dawn. The nomad must compensate for this movement. He must practice star pathing. He picks a star on the horizon that lies in his direction of travel. He walks towards it. But after 20 minutes, that star has moved higher and to the right. If he keeps following it, he will walk in a circle, so he must let it go. He picks a new star, one that has just risen to take the place of the first, and then another, and another. He is constantly handing off his trust from one star to the next, chaining them together to form a straight line across the crooked earth. It is a mental game of connect the dots, played out over hours of silent marching. The psychological effect of this is hypnotic. The rhythm of the walking, the cold air, the visual dominance of the stars, it induces a trance. The mind empties of worry. There is no past, no future. There is only the current star, the current step. The Bedouin calls this state of mind SRA, the night journey. It is considered the most noble time to travel. The heat is gone. The thirst is manageable. The world is beautiful. Stories are woven into the stars to help remember them. The constellations are not just shapes, they are characters in a drama. There is the lion, the camel, the tent, the bucket. He sees Althuria, the Pleiades. A tiny cluster of blue diamonds huddled together. They are the winter stars. When they are high, the rains might come. When they vanish, the heat returns. He sees Orion, the hunter, striding across the sky with his belt of 3 perfect stars. The Bedouin knows that Orion points the way to other constellations, a celestial signpost. As the night wears on, the cold intensifies. The desert floor, which was an oven at noon, is now a freezer. The temperature can drop near freezing. The nomad wraps his wool cloak tighter. He covers his face, leaving only his eyes exposed to the starlight. The cold keeps him awake, but the rhythm lulls him. It is a delicate balance. Sometimes meteors streak across the darkness. Shooting stars. In Bedouin folklore, these are missiles thrown by the angels to drive away the jinn, the spirits of smokeless fire who try to eavesdrop on the secrets of heaven. Seeing one is a reminder that the sky is alive, active, and watching. The night is long, but the sky tells the time perfectly. The rotation of the Great Bear around the pole is the hour hand. The rising of the morning star, Venus, is the alarm clock. When Venus appears, blazing brighter than any other star in the east, the nomad knows the journey is ending. The false dawn is approaching, a vertical column of light that appears before the sun. Then, the true dawn, the stars begin to fade. The deep black turns to charcoal, then to indigo, then to a soft, powdery blue. One by one, the friends wave goodbye. The faint stars vanish first, then the constellations, until only the mighty Venus and the moon remain. The celestial map is rolling up. The ceiling is closing. The Bedouin halts the caravan. The navigation is done. They have crossed the void in the dark, guided by lights that are trillions of miles away. They have arrived exactly where they intended to be. It is a feat of human brilliance, to walk a straight line on a moving sphere using a moving sky as a guide. But now the sun is returning. The eye of wrath is waking up. The beautiful, cold freedom of the night is about to be replaced by the harsh tyranny of the day. We must hide. We have found water. We have walked the path. But now we need shelter. We cannot stand exposed under the hammer of the sun. We need a home that can move with us. We need a structure that belongs to the desert. The stars are gone. The sand is beginning to glow. The heat is rising. It is time to build the sanctuary. It is time to raise the black tent. Rest your mind now from the vastness of the galaxy. Bring your focus down from the infinite to the intimate. From the billion stars to the single patch of shade. The night journey is over. The day is beginning. And the Bedouin must now weave a shadow to survive the light. The sun has risen, the brief mercy of the dawn is over. The eye of wrath is open wide, pouring its silent fire onto the dunes. The sand begins to heat up, radiating waves of energy back into the air. To remain outside now, exposed to the direct gaze of the sun, is to invite death. We need a shield, we need a shadow. In the distance, a shape appears. It is stark, angular, and deeply dark. It stands in total contrast to the soft, curving, light-colored landscape. It looks like a beetle resting on a gold sheet or a bat spreading its wings against the ground. This is the Beit al-Sha'ar, the House of Hair, the portable palace of the nomad. To the modern observer, the first question is always the same: why black? We are taught that white reflects heat and black absorbs it. In a land where the temperature can reach 120 degrees Fahrenheit, wearing or living in black seems like a mistake. It seems like a recipe for an oven, but the Bedouin is not a fool. The black tent is not a mistake, it is a machine. It is a masterpiece of ancient engineering that harnesses the laws of thermodynamics to create a natural air conditioning system. Let us step out of the glare and into the shadow to understand how it works. The secret lies in the heat absorption itself. Yes, the black goat hair absorbs the sun's rays. The roof of the tent becomes extremely hot, but this heat is not trapped. Hot air is lighter than cool air, it rises. The air immediately above the black roof heats up furiously and ascends into the sky. This rising column of hot air creates a vacuum, a negative pressure zone just above the fabric. And here is the genius of the weave. The tent is not made of canvas or plastic. It is woven from the hair of black goats. The weave is coarse, it is full of tiny, microscopic holes, it is porous. As the hot air rises off the roof, it draws air out from inside the tent through the weave. And to replace that air, cooler, heavier air is sucked in from the bottom, from the gap between the tent hem and the ground. It is the chimney effect or the stack effect. The black tent creates its own wind. Even on a perfectly still day, there is a gentle breeze circulating inside the Beit al-Sha'ar. The tent uses the sun's own power to fight the heat. The hotter the sun beats down, the stronger the convection current becomes, and the faster the air circulates. Inside, under the heavy canopy, the temperature can be 10 to 15 degrees cooler than the outside world. It is a sanctuary. It is a cave made of fabric. Now look at the material itself. Run your hand in your mind over the rough texture of the cloth. It is made of goat hair, not sheep's wool. Sheep's wool is too soft, it traps heat like a blanket, but goat hair is oily. It is stiff. It has a high tensile strength. This material is a smart fabric. Thousands of years before the term existed, it responds to the weather. In the dry heat of the summer, the fibers shrink slightly. They tighten, opening up the tiny holes in the weave to allow the air to pass through and the smoke from the fire to escape. It breathes. But the desert is also a place of sudden, violent storms. When the winter rains come, or when a flash flood pours from the sky, the goat hair performs a miracle. As soon as the fibers get wet, they swell. They expand in size. This swelling instantly closes the holes in the weave. The fabric becomes watertight. The tent, which was a sieve a moment ago, becomes a waterproof shell. The harder it rains, the tighter the seal. The creation of this house is a labor of patience. It is the domain of the women. While the men guide the camels and scout for water, the women are the architects of the home. They shear the goats. They clean the hair, combing it until the tangles are gone. They spin it into long, strong yarn using a simple drop spindle. Listen closely, and you might hear the rhythmic whir of the spindle, a sound that has echoed in the desert for millennia. They weave the yarn on ground looms, simple arrangements of stakes driven into the sand. They do not weave the whole tent at once, that would be too heavy. They weave long, narrow strips called flige. These strips are about 2 feet wide and can be 40 feet long. The tent is built by sewing these strips together. This modular design is brilliant. If a section of the roof wears out or tears, the whole tent does not need to be replaced. They simply unpick the stitching, remove the damaged strip, and sew in a new one. The tent grows and changes over time, just like the family inside it. A new strip is added for a new child. An old strip is retired to become a saddlebag or a rug. The Beit al-Sha'ar is a living organism, constantly renewing its skin. Now let us examine the structure. The tent is low, it hugs the ground, it is aerodynamic. A tall, vertical wall would be destroyed by the fierce desert winds, the shamal, that scour the landscape. But the Bedouin tent is a series of slopes and curves. The wind flows over it, pressing it down into the earth rather than lifting it up. It is held up by wooden poles, precious items in a land without trees. The main poles run down the center, creating the ridge. Smaller poles prop up the sides, but the real strength comes from the tension. Long ropes woven from wool or hemp stretch out from the tent like the legs of a giant spider. They are anchored deep into the sand with pegs. The entire structure relies on the balance between the push of the poles and the pull of the ropes. It is tension architecture. It is flexible. When the wind gusts, the tent moves, it breathes. It sways, it does not fight the force, it dances with it. Step inside now. Cross the threshold from the blinding white glare into the soothing gloom. The first thing you notice is the relief to your eyes. The darkness is physical comfort. The pupils dilate. The tension in the face muscles relaxes. The smell is distinct. It is the smell of the herd, a musky, earthy scent of goat hair, mingled with the sharp aroma of wood smoke and the sweet spice of cardamom coffee. It is the smell of safety. The interior is divided by a curtain, the saha. On one side is the rubba, the men's section. This is the public face of the house. Here the hearth is dug into the sand. Here the coffee pots, the dallas, stand in a row near the fire, their brass beaks shining in the gloom. This is where guests are received, where news is shared, where the tribal laws are discussed. On the other side is the maharama, the forbidden place, the women's section. This is the private heart of the family. Here the food is stored, the cooking utensils are kept. The bedding is rolled up against the walls. It is a space of intimacy and domestic industry, but despite the division, the tent is one space. The curtain does not block the sound. The murmur of conversation flows back and forth. The tent is a single acoustic chamber. The ground inside is covered with rugs, colorful geometric patterns in red, black, and white. These rugs separate the body from the sand. They create a floor in a world that has no floor. Lying here in the middle of the day during the great siesta, there is a profound sense of peace. Outside, the desert is a hostile inferno. The sun is killing anything that moves, but inside the black tent, life continues. The baby sleeps in a hammock strung between the poles. The men doze near the coffee fire. The women whisper as they mend a saddle. The Beit al-Sha'ar is more than just a shelter, it is a portable identity. When the tribe moves, the house collapses. The poles are struck. The heavy black cloth is rolled up. The entire home, the entire sanctuary is loaded onto the back of a single camel. In the morning, it is a house. In the afternoon, it is a bundle of baggage. In the evening, it is a house again, standing in a completely different location, yet feeling exactly the same inside. This continuity is vital for the nomad's mental health. The landscape changes constantly. The campsite changes, but the home remains the same. The same roof, the same smell, the same arrangement of poles. It is a fixed point in a moving universe. It teaches us a lesson about architecture. We build fortresses of stone and steel to keep nature out. The Bedouin builds a web of hair to let nature pass through. We fight the elements, they filter them. The afternoon wears on. The sun begins its descent. The heat inside the tent, which has been manageable, begins to dissipate even further. The air cools. The house of hair has done its job. It has protected its inhabitants through the peak of the danger. As we lie here, listening to the wind flap the heavy cloth, we can appreciate the survival intelligence woven into every thread. This is not primitive, this is sophisticated. It is a technology developed over thousands of years of trial and error, refined until it was perfect. There is no need for improvement. A modern nylon tent would turn into a greenhouse in this sun. A concrete bunker would become a kiln. Only the black goat hair, with its loose weave and its ability to breathe, can tame the desert sun. Rest in this knowledge, you are covered, you are shielded. The black wings of the tent are spread over you, casting a shadow that is the color of sleep. The fire is dying down to embers. The coffee has been drunk. The silence of the desert is creeping in under the hem of the tent. We are safe here. We are hidden. But to survive, one cannot just stay in the tent forever. One must eventually step out. And when one steps out, one must be dressed for the void. The tent protects the family, but the clothes protect the individual. As the sun sets and the tribe prepares for the evening, we turn our attention to the second layer of defense. The robes, the veils, the winding sheets of cloth that cover the body. Why are they so loose? Why so many layers? The answer, like the tent, lies in the secret physics of air and insulation. We step out from the deep shade of the black tent. We leave the house of hair and return to the open furnace of the world. The sun is waiting. The heat is a physical presence, a wall that you must push against to move. In a modern city on a hot summer day, the instinct of the human being is to strip down. We wear shorts. We wear t-shirts. We expose our skin to the air, believing that the breeze will cool us, believing that less clothing equals less heat. But in the deep desert, this logic is a trap. To expose the skin is to invite the enemy inside. To strip down is to die. Look at the Bedouin. He stands in the shimmering glare, a figure shrouded in layers of cloth. He wears a long flowing robe that reaches his ankles. He wears a headscarf wrapped tight. He wears a heavy cloak. To the uninitiated eye, he looks like he is dressed for winter. It seems like torture, but this is not clothing, it is architecture. It is the robes of resistance. The Bedouin understands a fundamental law of physics that modern fashion has forgotten: insulation works both ways. Just as a thick wall keeps the cold out in winter, it keeps the heat out in summer. The primary garment is the thobe or the deshdasha. It is a long, tunic-like robe, usually made of white cotton. It covers the arms, the legs, the neck. It leaves almost nothing exposed. Let us analyze the engineering of this garment. The first secret is the fit. The thobe is not tight. It does not cling to the body. It hangs loosely, draping from the shoulders like a curtain. This looseness is critical. It creates a gap, a layer of air between the fabric and the skin. Air is one of the best insulators in nature. By trapping a layer of air around the body, the robe creates a buffer zone. The sun hits the fabric and the fabric heats up. But that heat must travel across the air gap to reach the skin. Most of it fails. The robe takes the beating so the body doesn't have to. The second secret is the movement. Watch the nomad walk. As he strides forward, the heavy fabric of the robe swings. It billows out and collapses back in. Swish, swish. This rhythmic motion creates what is known as the bellows effect. The robe acts like a pump. As the fabric swings away from the body, it creates a vacuum that pulls air in from the bottom, around the ankles. As the fabric collapses back against the body, it pushes air up and out through the neckline. The Bedouin is walking inside a personal chimney. With every step, he is mechanically pumping fresh air over his skin. He is constantly circulating the air within his microclimate. If he were to stand still, he might get hot. But as long as he moves, the air moves with him. Now consider the sweat. If you walk shirtless in the desert, your sweat evaporates instantly. The dry air sucks the moisture from your pores before it has a chance to cool you. You sweat more and more, draining your internal ocean, but your skin remains dry and hot. You dehydrate rapidly without feeling the benefit of cooling. But inside the robe, the environment is different. The air trapped inside is slightly more humid. The sweat does not evaporate instantly. It stays on the skin longer. It cools the blood more efficiently. The robe creates a humid terrarium around the man, slowing down the rate of water loss while maximizing the cooling effect. It is a delicate balance between biology and physics, maintained by a piece of cotton. Over the thobe, the Bedouin often wears a bisht or abaya. This is a cloak often darker in color, sometimes made of camel hair or wool. Why add another layer? Why wear wool in the heat? It is the shield against the solar load. The sun's radiation is intense. It can burn the skin in minutes. It can penetrate thin fabric. The heavy outer cloak acts as a radiation shield. It is thick enough that the heat absorbed on the outer surface simply cannot penetrate through to the inner surface. The outside of the cloak might be scorching to the touch, hot enough to fry an egg, but the inside remains at body temperature. And then there is the crown of the desert survivalist, the headgear. The sun strikes from above. The head and the back of the neck are the most vulnerable parts of the human anatomy. A sunstroke begins here. The brain overheats. The body's thermostat breaks. Confusion sets in, then collapse. The Bedouin wears the shemag or the gutra, a square of cotton often checkered red and white or pure white. It is held in place by the agal, a black double cord. This is not just a hat, it is a multi-tool. The cloth is folded into a triangle and draped over the head. It creates a pocket of shade for the face. It falls over the shoulders, protecting the sensitive neck from the direct rays, but look at how he wears it. The ends of the cloth are not just left hanging, he wraps them. He pulls the cloth across his face, covering his nose and mouth, leaving only a slit for the eyes. This is the lithem. By covering the mouth, he creates a moisture trap. Remember the art of water conservation? We spoke of breathing through the nose. The cloth enhances this. As he exhales, the moisture in his breath is caught in the fabric. As he inhales, the dry desert air is pulled through the damp cloth. He is humidifying the air before he breathes it. He is drinking his own breath. This face covering also filters the dust. In a sandstorm, the silica dust is fine as flour. It can coat the lungs, causing asphyxiation or pneumonia. The shemag is a high-quality air filter. The tight weave of the cotton blocks the sand but allows the air. And the agal, the black cord that holds it all together, it too has a history. Originally, it was not a hatband. It was a camel hobble. When the nomad stopped for the night, he would take the cord from his head and tie the camel's legs together to prevent it from wandering. Even his crown is a tool of survival. The colors of the clothing tell a story too. We see white and we think of reflection, but we also see black robes. The Bedouin women often wear black from head to toe. A study was once done to see if the black robes made the wearer hotter. The result was surprising. Yes, the black fabric absorbed more heat than the white. But that heat was lost before it reached the skin. The chimney effect in the black robes was actually stronger because the heat differential was greater. The hot air rose faster, pulling in more cooling air from below, so whether in white or black, the Bedouin is safe. There is also a psychological aspect to these robes. In the desert, the individual is small, the landscape is huge. The human body is fragile, lumpy, and imperfect, but the robes hide the fragility. They give the man a silhouette of dignity. He becomes a column of cloth. He looks larger than he is, he looks permanent. The uniformity of the clothing also removes the distraction of status. In the deep desert, it does not matter if you are a prince or a pauper. The sun burns you both the same. The thirst kills you both the same. The robes are the uniform of the brotherhood of survival. Look down at the feet. The Bedouin does not wear heavy combat boots. He does not wear sealed leather shoes that trap the sweat and rot the feet. He wears sandals, simple, open leather sandals. They allow the feet to breathe. They allow the sand to flow in and out. To fight the sand is useless, it will always get in, so the footwear invites it to leave. The soles of the sandals are thick, made of camel leather, or in modern times, old tire rubber. They insulate the soles of the feet from the burning ground. The sand can be 160 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to blister skin instantly. The sandal is the floating raft upon which the nomad stands, but often you will see them walking barefoot. Over a lifetime, the soles of a Bedouin's feet become like leather themselves. They develop a callus so thick that they can walk on thorns without flinching. They can feel the temperature of the sand changes. They can feel the vibrations of a rider approaching miles away. The foot becomes a sensory organ, but only when necessary. Most of the time they protect it. The ensemble is complete. The thobe, the bisht, the shemagh, the sandals, it looks ancient because it is. It has not changed for centuries because it cannot be improved. It is the perfect adaptation to the environment. Imagine wearing it now. Feel the weight of the cotton on your shoulders. It feels heavy at first, but then you feel the breeze. You feel the cool air wafting up your legs as you walk. You feel the shade of the headscarf protecting your neck. You feel hidden, you feel safe. You are a self-contained unit. You carry your own shade with you. You carry your own atmosphere. The sun rages outside, pounding against your shield, but it cannot touch you. You are the master of your own temperature. This resistance is passive. It is quiet. It does not fight the sun with noise or machines. It fights the sun with geometry and fabric. We have the water. We have the shelter. We have the clothing. The immediate threats of the environment have been neutralized. But the body needs more than just protection. The body is an engine, and engines need fuel. We have walked for days. The stomach is empty. The energy reserves are low. We look out at the barren landscape. To the stranger, there is no food here. There are only rocks and dry sticks. A man from the city would starve to death in this pantry, but the Bedouin knows the menu. He knows that the desert is not dead, it is merely hiding its life. He knows where to look for the tiny, the bitter, and the hidden morsels that sustain life. The sun is high. The caravan slows. It is time to harvest the invisible garden. We must learn to eat what the desert offers. We must learn to find the sustenance in the silence. The robes settle around us as we stop. The dust swirls. The hunt for food begins. The sun has passed its zenith. The shadows are beginning to stretch once more, reaching out like long, dark fingers across the golden floor of the world. We have walked for hours. We are protected by our robes, we are hydrated by our discipline, but now the body demands something more solid. The stomach is a clock that cannot be ignored. It ticks with a hollow sound. To the eyes of a stranger, we are walking through a graveyard of nutrition. Look around. What do you see? You see rocks. You see dry, brittle bushes that crumble to dust when you touch them. You see sand that stretches to the edge of the universe. There are no supermarkets here. There are no fields of wheat. There are no fruit trees heavy with harvest. A man from the city dropped into this landscape would starve to death in a week, surrounded by food he did not know how to see. But the Bedouin does not see a wasteland. He sees a pantry. It is a hidden pantry locked behind the disguise of barrenness. To open it, one does not need a key, one needs knowledge. One needs to lower one's gaze and look at the earth with the eyes of a scavenger. The desert is stingy. It does not give freely, but it does give if you are humble enough to accept what is offered. The first and most sacred item in this pantry is the date. It is impossible to tell the story of the Bedouin without the story of the date palm. This is not just a fruit, it is the tree of life. For thousands of years, the nomad and the palm have existed in a symbiotic embrace. The date is the perfect survival food. It is compact. It is durable, it does not rot in the heat. A bag of dried dates can travel on the back of a camel for months, baking in the sun, and they will be as good on the 100th day as they were on the first. Analyze the date. It is pure energy. It is sugar, it is fiber, it is magnesium, it is potassium. A handful of dates, perhaps 5 or 6, can keep a grown man walking for 24 hours. It is high-density fuel for a high-performance engine. The Bedouin eats it with reverence. He does not gulp, he nibbles. He lets the dry, crystallized skin soften in his mouth. He savors the intense sweetness, a shock of sugar that wakes up the brain, and he wastes nothing. When the flesh is eaten, the stone remains, the seed. In the city, this is trash. In the desert, it is fodder. The Bedouin collects the date stones. He soaks them in water to soften them, or he grinds them into a coarse flour. He feeds this to his camel. The camel eats the seed, carries the man, and the man eats the fruit. The cycle is closed, nothing is lost. But one cannot live on sugar alone. The body craves substance. The body craves variety. Sometimes the desert offers a treasure that is worth more than gold. It happens after a storm. When the rare rains fall, accompanied by thunder and lightning, the Bedouin watches the ground closely. He believes that the lightning strikes fertilize the earth. He looks for cracks in the sand. He looks for a swelling in the soil near the roots of the sun rose plant. He digs. He uses his hands or a simple stick. He pushes aside the sand to reveal a lumpy, ugly brown object. It looks like a clod of dirt. This is the faga, the desert truffle. It is a fungus that grows in silence beneath the surface. It has no leaves, no stem, no sign of its existence above ground, except for the slight cracking of the earth as it grows. To find it requires the eyes of a hawk. The Bedouin unearths it gently. It is heavy. It is full of protein. When roasted in the embers of the campfire, it tastes like meat. It tastes of the earth itself, musky, savory, and rich. In the seasons of the faga, the tribe feasts. They dry what they cannot eat, slicing the truffles and threading them on strings to carry them for the lean months ahead. But the faga is a luxury. It is a gift of the rain. The Bedouin cannot depend on luxuries. He must depend on the constants. And the most constant thing in the desert is the insect. In the West, we view insects with disgust. We see them as pests. But in the survival equation, disgust is a luxury you cannot afford. Protein is protein. Imagine a cloud appearing on the horizon. It is a dark, buzzing cloud that blocks out the sun. A swarm of locusts. To the farmer in the settled lands, the locust is a plague. It is a destroyer that eats his crops and leaves him with nothing. But to the Bedouin, the locust is the crop. The plague is the feast. When the swarm descends, the tribe mobilizes. It is a harvest festival. They catch the locusts by the thousands. They fill their bags. They do not eat them raw. They cook them with care. They boil them in large pots of salt water. The boiling turns the insects red like small lobsters. Then they spread them out on the hot sand to dry in the sun. The sun turns them brittle. They become crunchy, salty, and light. The Bedouin removes the legs and the wings. He eats the body. It tastes like a roasted nut or perhaps like a dried shrimp. It is pure protein, preserved by the salt and the sun. A bag of dried locusts is a survival ration that weighs almost nothing. A nomad can walk for weeks with a pouch of these dried insects at his belt, munching on them as he moves. He is eating the enemy of the farmer. He is turning the pestilence into power. But sometimes the hunger demands meat, real meat. The camels are too valuable to slaughter. A camel is capital. It is transportation, milk, and wool. You do not eat your car. You do not eat your bank account. You only slaughter a camel for a wedding, a funeral, or to save a guest from starvation. So the Bedouin looks down. He looks for the dragon of the dunes. The D-hub lizard. This is a spiny-tailed lizard, a prehistoric-looking creature that can grow up to 3 feet long. It is a vegetarian living on the sparse, dried bushes. It is cold-blooded, relying on the sun to warm its body. Hunting the D-hub is a lesson in patience. The Bedouin finds the lizard's burrow. He sees the track of its tail in the sand, a distinctive S-shape. He does not dig it out. The burrow is too deep and the ground is too hard. He waits. He might wait for hours, motionless, becoming a statue in the sun. He waits for the lizard to emerge to bask. Or he uses a trick. He taps the ground near the entrance. Thump, thump, thump. The vibration mimics the sound of a challenger or a mate. Curiosity brings the dragon out. When the D-hub emerges, the capture must be swift. The lizard is fast, and its tail is a weapon, covered in sharp, bony spikes that can whip the skin off a man's hand. The Bedouin grabs it behind the head, avoiding the tail. The meat of the D-hub is tough. It requires long cooking, but the prize is the tail. The tail of the D-hub is a reservoir of fat. It is rich, oily, and heavy. In a land where fat is scarce, this is a delicacy. The Bedouin roasts the lizard over the fire. He eats the meat with gratitude. He is eating the spirit of the desert's resilience. There are other smaller ghosts in the pantry. The jerboa, a tiny rodent with long hind legs like a kangaroo, it hops through the night. The Bedouin sets delicate snares made of hair in the openings of its burrow. It is a small morsel, barely a mouthful, but it is life. The sand grouse, the bird that guided us to water, is also food. But catching a bird in the open sky is difficult. It requires skill with a sling or a simple trap. And then there is the bread of the desert. But where does one find flour in a land without wheat? The Bedouin looks for the sam plant. It is a small, insignificant fleshy plant that grows in the depressions of the sand. When it dries, it produces tiny seed pods. The harvesting of sam is tedious work. The women beat the dried plants with sticks to release the seeds. The seeds are microscopic. They are mixed with sand and dust. To separate the food from the earth, they use water. They throw the mixture into a bowl of water. The sand sinks to the bottom. The sam seeds float to the top. They skim off the seeds, dry them, and grind them between two stones. The resulting flour is dark, almost red. When mixed with water and baked on a hot stone or buried in the embers, it makes a dense, heavy bread. It tastes savory, earthy, and filling. It is a bread made from the dust of the wilderness. But perhaps the most important item in the pantry is not solid at all. It is the white river that flows from the camel milk. For months at a time, a Bedouin might eat nothing solid. He might live entirely on milk. It is a complete food. It is rich in fat, rich in vitamin C, which is rare in the desert, and crucially, it is water. Fresh camel milk is warm and frothy. It is slightly salty. It does not curdle like cow's milk. It sits heavy in the stomach, silencing the hunger pangs for hours. When there is too much milk, they do not let it spoil. They turn it into jammed. They churn the milk in a bag made of goat skin, rocking it back and forth for hours until the butter separates. The remaining buttermilk is boiled and dried until it turns into hard, rock-like balls of yogurt. These stones of dried milk can be kept for years. They are hard as rocks. To eat them, the Bedouin soaks them in water, turning the rock back into a broth. It is instant soup, invented thousands of years ago. The pantry of the desert is not about abundance. It is about preservation. It is about taking the little that exists and stretching it across time. Every meal is a victory. Every mouthful is a result of labor and observation. There is no mindless snacking here. Eating is a communal act. When the food is prepared, whether it is a roasted lizard, a handful of dates, or a bowl of sam porridge, the men gather around the common bowl. They eat with their right hand. They eat slowly. They leave the last portion for the guest, or for the children, or for the spirits of the ancestors. As the sun sets and the fire crackles, the smell of the food changes the atmosphere. The scent of roasted truffles or baking bread mixes with the smoke. It is the smell of survival. The stomach, which was a hollow drum, is silenced. The energy returns to the muscles. The mind, which was foggy with hunger, clears. The Bedouin wipes his hand on the sand to clean it. He leans back against his saddle. He is full. Not full in the way a glutton is full, but full in the way a fuel tank is full. He has enough to face tomorrow. The desert has provided. It has surrendered its hidden treasures. The locust, the lizard, the truffle, the date, they are all part of the same cycle. The sun feeds the plant feeds the insect feeds the lizard, and they all feed the man. And eventually, the man feeds the desert. It is a relationship of deep intimacy. You are what you eat, and the Bedouin eats the desert. He takes the harshness of the land into his own body and turns it into strength. The fire dies down. The coffee pot is put back on the embers. The sweetness of the dates lingers on the tongue. We have found water, we have built shelter. We have found food. The basic biological needs are met, but a human being is not just a biological machine. A human being has a mind. And in the vast, crushing silence of the empty quarter, the mind is under attack. The body is fed, but what about the sanity? How does one keep from going mad in a place where nothing changes, where the silence is loud enough to scream? We have survived the physical elements. Now we must survive the psychological ones. We must learn the tricks of the mind. We must learn how to endure the solitude without losing the self. The night is deep. The stomach is quiet, but the thoughts are beginning to stir. We have spoken of the Bedouin's resilience. We have spoken of his ability to find water, to endure heat, and to eat the meager offerings of the earth. But there is a limit to what a human being can do alone. The desert is too vast, the distances are too great, and the human body is too small to conquer the empty quarter on foot. To truly unlock the deep desert, man needed a partner. He needed a vehicle that could drink the heat and eat the thorns. He needed a miracle of evolution. He needed the dromedary. The single-humped camel. The Bedouin calls it Ata Allah, the gift of God. Without this creature, the Bedouin would not be a nomad. He would be a refugee clinging to the edge of the oasis. With the camel, he became the master of the horizon. Let us look closely at this beast. To the unaccustomed eye, the camel is a strange, ungainly assembly of parts. It looks like a mistake. It has a long serpentine neck, a heavy hump, knobby knees, and a haughty expression. But in the context of the desert, the camel is beautiful. It is perfect. Every inch of its anatomy is a solution to a deadly problem. Consider the feet. A horse has hooves, hard, sharp nails designed for the solid ground of the plains. If a horse steps onto a sand dune, its hoof punctures the surface. It sinks, it struggles. It exerts massive energy just to pull its leg out, but the camel does not have hooves, it has pads. Two large toes joined by a flexible web of skin forming a broad, flat cushion. When the camel places its foot on the sand, the toes spread out. The pad expands. It mimics the action of a snowshoe. It distributes the animal's massive weight over a large surface area, allowing it to float on top of the shifting grains rather than sinking into them. The walk of the camel is silent. There is no clip-clop, there is only a soft, muffled shush-shush as the pads compress the sand. It is a stealthy movement for such a giant. Now look up at the legs, they are long, unusually long. This is not just for height, it is for cooling. The heat of the desert radiates upward from the baking sand. By having long legs, the camel keeps its vital organs, its heart, its lungs, its stomach, several feet above the hottest zone of the air near the ground. It is walking on stilts to stay cool. And then there is the hump. For centuries, travelers believed the hump was full of water. A built-in tank. This is a myth. The hump is not a water tank, it is a pantry. It is a mound of pure fat. Can store up to 80 pounds of energy-rich adipose tissue. Why put all the fat in one place? Why not spread it under the skin like a whale or a seal? Because fat is an insulator. If the camel had a layer of fat all over its body, it would trap the heat inside. It would cook from within. By concentrating all the fat in one lump on the back, the rest of the body remains lean and able to release heat. The hump also acts as a roof. It sits on the top of the animal, absorbing the direct rays of the sun, acting as a heat shield for the internal organs below. The fat absorbs the solar load, protecting the core. When the camel is starving, the hump shrinks. It flops over to the side, a deflated balloon, only to stand firm again when the grazing is good. Let us move to the head. The camel carries its head high, surveying the landscape with an air of indifference. But look at the face. It is an armored mask. The nostrils are not open holes, they are muscular slits. The camel can close them tight, sealing its respiratory system against the dust. In the middle of a violent sandstorm, when a human is choking, the camel simply shuts its nose and breathes calmly through the small gaps, filtering the air. The eyes are protected by a double defense. First, the heavy brow ridge shades the eyes from the overhead sun like a built-in visor. Second, the eyelashes. They are long, thick, and interlocking. They form a screen that keeps the blowing grit out while still allowing the animal to see. And hidden beneath the eyelids is a third eyelid, the nictitating membrane. It is a thin, translucent windshield wiper that sweeps across the eye horizontally, clearing away the dust without the camel ever having to blink. Now, listen to the sound of it eating. The desert is full of acacia trees. These trees defend themselves with vicious thorns, sharp as needles and hard as iron. A human hand would bleed instantly. A horse's mouth would be shredded. But the camel has a mouth made of leather. The inside of its cheeks and its tongue are lined with tough, rubbery papillae. It can chew through thorns that are inches long. It eats the pain. It grinds the sharp spikes into pulp, extracting the moisture and the nutrients that no other animal can reach. But the true miracle happens inside the blood. A human being will die if they lose 12% of their body water. The blood becomes thick, the heart fails, the circulation stops. A camel can lose 40% of its body water and keep walking. It can look like a skeleton, desiccated and shriveled, and yet it lives. The secret is in the shape of the blood cells. Human blood cells are round. When we dehydrate, they shrink and clump together, causing clots. Camel blood cells are oval. They are shaped like rugby balls or ellipses. This shape allows them to slide through the veins even when the blood is thick and syrupy. They flow where round cells would get stuck. And when the camel finally finds water, these cells can expand to 240% of their original size, absorbing the flood without bursting. Imagine the drinking. The caravan reaches a well. The camel has not drunk for 2 weeks. It lowers its long neck. It does not sip, it inhales water. A thirsty camel can drink 30 gallons, that is over 100 liters, in 10 minutes. It is a biological pump. You can watch the water traveling up the neck in waves. The animal swells before your eyes, rehydrating instantly, storing the liquid in its tissues, ready for the next 2 weeks of drought. This is the machine. Now imagine riding it. The Bedouin does not sit on the hump, that would be unstable. He sits behind it or in front of it on a wooden saddle cushioned with wool. The ride is distinctive. A horse walks by moving the front left leg and the back right leg together, a diagonal gait. This keeps the rider relatively steady. The camel is a pacer. It moves both legs on the left side, then both legs on the right side, left, right. This creates a rolling, swaying motion. The rider is pitched side to side, then forward and back. It is the motion of a ship at sea. This is why it is called the ship of the desert. For the novice, this motion induces seasickness, nausea, dizziness, but for the Bedouin, this rhythm is the heartbeat of life. It is hypnotic. It is a lullaby, sway left, sway right. The horizon bobs up and down. The rhythm is slow, about 2.5 miles per hour. It is a pace that can be maintained forever. The Bedouin learns to relax his body, to move with the animal rather than resisting it. He becomes fluid. Many nomads have learned the art of sleeping in the saddle. They wrap their legs around the saddle horn, lean back, and let the swaying motion rock them into a deep slumber as the caravan marches on through the night. The relationship between the man and the beast is not one of master and slave. It is a partnership. The camel is independent, it is intelligent, it has a memory that rivals an elephant. If you mistreat a camel, it will remember. It might wait years for its revenge, biting or kicking when you least expect it. But if you treat it well, it is loyal. The Bedouin sings to his camels. This is called huda. It is a special form of poetry, chanted in a rhythmic monotone voice that matches the cadence of the camel's walk. The camels know the voice of their owner. In a herd of 1,000 animals, a Bedouin can call out, and his specific camels will lift their heads and come to him. At night, when the temperature drops, the camels are brought close to the tents. They are made to kneel barak. It is a 3-stage process: front knees, back legs, then the settle. They sit in a circle facing outward, acting as a living wall against the wind and the wolves. The Bedouin sleeps in the center, protected by the warm, breathing mountains of fur. The smell of the camel is the smell of home. It is a musky, sweet scent of wool and dried herbs. The sound of their cud chewing, a slow, rhythmic grinding, is the white noise of the camp. It signifies safety. As long as the camels are calm, chewing their cud, there is no danger. This animal is more than transport. It is the key to the lock. It provides the milk that sustains the tribe. It provides the wool that weaves the tent. It provides the dung that fuels the fire. Dry camel dung burns with a slow, hot, smokeless flame, perfect for baking bread. And in the end, it provides the leather for the sandals and the water skins. Every part of the Bedouin's life is entangled with the camel. We have walked alongside them. We have ridden atop them. We have marveled at their ability to ignore the sun. But the journey is long, and even the ship of the desert has limits. The camel gives us mobility, but it also gives us something else, something surprising and medicinal. We have spoken of the milk, but there are other gifts this creature offers, strange gifts, gifts that heal. As the caravan settles for the night, the camels resting their heavy heads on the sand, we realize that our survival depends entirely on their survival. We are parasites on their backs. They are the true citizens of the void, we are just guests. Sleep now to the rhythm of the chewing. The great ships are anchored for the night, the desert ocean is still. The night is deep, the constellation of the hunter is high overhead. The camp is silent, save for the soft chewing of the camels and the occasional crackle of the embers. We are lying close to the animals. In the city, we keep our pets in the house and our livestock in the barn. But here, the barrier between man and beast dissolves. The camel is not just a tool, it is a member of the family. It is a roommate. We have spoken of the camel as a vehicle and as a pantry. But the relationship goes deeper than transportation and nutrition. It enters the realm of medicine. It enters the realm of alchemy. To understand this, we must remember the rule of the void. Nothing is wasted. Absolutely nothing. Every fluid, every hair, every breath has a purpose. Let us speak first of the white gold, the milk. We know it feeds the stomach, but to the Bedouin, camel milk is also the primary medicine cabinet. In a land without pharmacies, without antibiotics, without refrigeration, the health of the tribe hangs by a thread. That thread is the milk. Modern science tells us that camel milk is radically different from the milk of a cow or a goat. It is closer in structure to human mother's milk. It is rich in immunoglobulins, proteins that fight infection. For the Bedouin, this was not science, it was daily reality. If a child was sickly, they were given fresh camel milk. If an elder had a stomach ache, they drank the milk. If a warrior was wounded, the milk was used to strengthen his blood. Consider the vitamin C in the desert. There are no citrus trees. There are no oranges, no lemons, no leafy greens for months at a time. By all biological logic, the Bedouin should suffer from scurvy. Their teeth should fall out, their joints should swell. But they do not. Why? Because camel milk is a miracle of adaptation. It contains 3 times the vitamin C of cow's milk. The camel eats the dry, thorny bushes, plants that look dead to us, and synthesizes the vitamins within its own body, passing them into the milk. The Bedouin drinks the desert's hidden vitality through the animal, but the bond goes even further, into territory that the modern mind finds difficult to accept. We must speak of the water of the beast. In the deep desert, water is more precious than blood. You do not use water to wash your hands. You do not use water to wash your clothes. And you certainly do not use water to wash your hair. To waste a gallon of water on vanity is a crime against the tribe. And yet, the Bedouin were known for their hygiene. The women were famous for their long, lustrous black hair. The men were clean. How? They turned to the only other liquid available in abundance, the urine of the camel. To the uninitiated, this sounds repulsiveness. But suspend your judgment, step back and look at the chemistry. A camel drinks very little water, therefore its waste output is highly concentrated. It is not like the waste of other animals. It is extremely saline, it is sterile when it leaves the body, and it is rich in ammonia. Ammonia is a cleaner. It is the active ingredient in many modern household cleaning products. The Bedouin women used the warm urine of the she-camel to wash their hair. It acted as a powerful shampoo. The high salt content and the ammonia killed lice and ticks instantly, parasites that are a constant plague in the desert. It cleaned the scalp of fungal infections, but it did more than clean. It changed the texture of the hair. It turned the hair a lighter shade, a reddish gold, which was considered beautiful. It added a shine and a softness that water could not achieve. This was not a desperate act of dirty people. It was a calculated act of resourcefulness. They found a sterile, antiseptic, parasite-killing liquid in a place where water was too holy to be used for soap. They called it wazar. It was used to wash wounds. If a man was cut by a sword or bitten by a spider, the wound was washed with wazar. Its antimicrobial properties prevented gangrene. It was the antiseptic of the sands. In some traditions, it was even consumed in small quantities, mixed with milk, as a cure for internal ailments, liver problems, fevers, and dropsy. They believed it cleansed the belly just as it cleansed the skin. This willingness to use every part of the animal shows the depth of the bond. There is no disgust here. There is only gratitude. The camel gives everything it has to keep the human alive. Now watch the hands of the nomad. When the caravan stops, the Bedouin does not just ignore the animal. He grooms it. He checks its feet. He runs his hands over the hump to check its firmness. He looks for ticks. The desert tick is a menace. It burrows into the soft skin of the camel's ears and nostrils. The Bedouin spends hours carefully removing them by hand. It is a grooming ritual, like monkeys grooming each other in the jungle. It creates trust. The camel lowers its head, closing its eyes, allowing the man to touch its most sensitive parts because it knows the man brings relief. They share the wool. In the spring, the camel sheds its winter coat. The wool comes off in great clumps. The Bedouin collects it. It is not sheared like a sheep, it is plucked. This creates a tactile connection. The man helps the animal shed its heavy coat before the summer heat arrives. This wool is then spun by the women to make the ropes, the rugs, and the bags. The very house they live in is made of the hair of the ancestors of the camels they ride today. They are literally wrapped in the history of their herd, and they share a name. A camel is never just a camel. In the Arabic language, there are over 1,000 words for camel, describing every possible age, color, gender, and temperament. There is a word for a camel that is thirsty, al-adish, a word for a camel that is spooked, al-jaful, a word for a she-camel that has lost her calf, al-khluj. But beyond the descriptive words, they have personal names. A Bedouin knows the lineage of his camel as well as he knows his own. He can recite the mother and the grandmother of his mount. This is Hamra, daughter of Shaheen, daughter of Wada. They brand them. The Wazam, each tribe has a specific symbol, a line, a circle, a cross that is cauterized onto the camel's neck or flank. It is the signature of the family. If a camel wanders off and is found by another tribe 300 miles away, they look at the Wazam. They know exactly who it belongs to. They know the family. They will return it or send word. The Wazam is a language of ownership written on the skin of the beast. It says, this creature is part of us. This bond transcends death. When a beloved camel dies, especially a faithful mount that has saved a man's life, the Bedouin grieves. Poetry is written for the animal. There are stories of men who refused to ride another camel after their favorite died, walking on foot until they too perished. It is a symbiosis that borders on the spiritual. The Bedouin believes that the camel was created from the same clay as the breakage of the clouds. They believe the camel carries a secret. Look at the camel's face again. Look at its haughty, slightly arrogant expression. There is an old Arab proverb, man knows 99 names for God, but the camel knows the 100th name. That is why he looks so proud. He knows something we do not. He knows how to survive the fire without burning. As we lie in the sand, listening to the slow, rhythmic breathing of the herd, we feel small. We are fragile, hairless, water-dependent creatures. We do not belong here, but they do. And because they allow us to climb onto their backs, because they share their milk and their warmth, we are allowed to stay. The bond is not about domination. It is about debt. We owe them our lives. The night deepens, the air grows cold, biting into the skin. The Bedouin shifts his position, moving closer to the flank of his camel. The animal radiates heat like a furnace. The man presses his back against the coarse wool. He borrows the warmth. Man and beast huddled together against the cosmic chill. Two species evolved separately but locked together in a single destiny. The survival of one is the survival of the other. But survival is not just about hoarding resources. It is not just about keeping what you have. In the desert, the paradox is that to survive, you must sometimes give everything away. You must open your tent, you must pour out your water. You must kill your last goat. We have learned how to take from the desert. Now we must learn how to give to the stranger. The most sacred law of the void is about to be tested. The law that overrides thirst, hunger, and logic, the law of hospitality. Sleep now in the shadow of the camel. For tomorrow, a stranger may appear on the horizon, and we must be ready to save him, even if it costs us everything. The sun has set. The desert is no longer a kingdom of gold. It is a kingdom of shadows. The wind picks up, carrying with it the chill of the deep night. Imagine you are alone. You have walked for days. Your water skin is flat and empty. Your lips are cracked. The camel beneath you stumbles. You are a dot in the infinite blackness, disconnected from every anchor of the civilized world. And then, in the distance, you see a spark. It is faint at first, a tiny orange eye blinking against the dark. It grows larger. It is a fire. It is high on a dune, placed deliberately where it can be seen for miles. This is the Nar al-Kira, the fire of hospitality. It is a lighthouse in the ocean of sand. It is a signal that says, come, there is life here. There is safety here. You steer your camel toward the light. As you approach, the shapes of the black tents emerge from the gloom. Dogs bark, a sharp, alerting sound. Figures move. In the modern world, a stranger approaching a home at night is a threat. We lock our doors, we check our cameras, we call the police. But in the desert, the stranger is a blessing. The stranger is a guest of God. This brings us to the most rigid, most beautiful, and most paradoxical survival trick of the Bedouin, the code of hospitality. Why would a people who have so little, who struggle for every drop of water and every handful of dates, be so willing to give it all away to a person they have never met? The answer lies in the harshness of the land. The Bedouin knows that tomorrow he could be the one on the empty water skin. He could be the one lost in the storm. Hospitality is not just kindness, it is a universal insurance policy. It is a pact made between all the inhabitants of the void. I will save you today so that you might save me tomorrow. The ritual of arrival is scripted by centuries of tradition. As you ride into the circle of light, the host emerges. He does not ask your name, he does not ask your business, he does not ask where you come from or where you are going. To ask a hungry man questions is considered an insult. The stomach must be filled before the tongue is loosened. He helps you down from your camel. He leads you into the rabbah, the men's section of the tent. He seats you on the best rugs, leaning you against the camel saddles. And then the ceremony begins. It begins with the sound. Listen to it. Clink, 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 clink. It is the sound of the al-mabesh, a large wooden mortar and pestle. The host is grinding coffee beans. He does this rhythmically. In the silence of the desert, this sound travels far. It is music. It tells the neighbors and the weary travelers that coffee is being prepared. It is a drumbeat of welcome. The making of the coffee, gawa, is a sacred act. It is not just a drink. It is a symbol of the blood bond. The host takes the green coffee beans and roasts them in a flat iron pan over the embers. The smell of roasting beans fills the tent, a rich, smoky, earthy aroma that wakes up the senses. He grinds them. He adds cardamom, the queen of spices, which cools the stomach and sweetens the breath. He boils the water in the dala, the iconic brass coffee pot with the long, curved beak like a bird. He pours, but he does not pour a full cup. He holds the finjan, a small handle-less cup, in his right hand. He pours only a sip, just enough to cover the bottom of the cup. This is known as sabal. Why so little? Because if he filled the cup, it would mean drink quickly and leave. By pouring a tiny amount, he is saying, relax, take your time, I will pour for you again and again. You are not in a rush here. There is a language in the cups. The first cup the host drinks himself. This is finjan al-haif, it is the cup of safety. He drinks it in front of the guest to prove that the coffee is not poisoned, that it is good, and that the guest is safe. The second cup is handed to the guest. This is finjan al-daif. The cup of the guest, it is the official welcome. When you drink this, you have accepted the hospitality, you have eaten the salt of the house, you are under the protection of the tribe. The third cup is finjan al-kaif, the cup of the mood. This is for pleasure. It is to relax the mind, to enjoy the flavor of the cardamom, to let the fatigue of the journey melt away. And then there is the fourth cup, finjan al-saif, the cup of the sword. This cup is rare. If the guest accepts this cup, it means he is offering his sword to the host. It means that if the camp is attacked, he will fight alongside them. It is a pact of military alliance. Usually the guest shakes the cup gently from side to side after the second or third cup, signaling I am finished, and the pouring stops. The coffee is bitter. There is no sugar in the desert. But it is served with dates, which are intensely sweet. The contrast between the bitter liquid and the sweet fruit is the taste of life itself. After the coffee comes the food. The host must be generous. Even if he has only one goat left in his herd, he will slaughter it for the guest. This is the dabiba, the great feast. A massive platter is brought in, piled high with rice or bread, soaking in the fat and meat of the animal. The host does not eat, he stands and serves. He encourages the guest to eat more. Sem, he says, say the name of God and eat. Only when the guest is full and pulls back does the host sit to eat the leftovers. The guest is the king, the host is the servant. This protection is not fleeting. It is governed by the 3-day rule. The Bedouin believes that the food you eat stays in your body for 3 days. As long as the host's salt is in your blood, you are part of his body, you are protected. The first day is salam, greeting. The second day is tam, food. The third day is kalam, talk. For 3 full days you can stay without being asked a single question. You can rest, recover, and heal. Only on the morning of the 4th day is the host allowed to ask, who are you and what do you need? And if you need to leave before then, you are given provisions. You are given water. You are given protection. This brings us to the most dramatic aspect of the code, the dakhil, the sanctuary. Imagine you are running, you are being chased by enemies, you have committed a crime. You are terrified. If you can reach the tent of a Bedouin, any Bedouin, and touch the tent pole or even trip over the ropes, you can shout, Ana dakhil, I am under your protection. At that moment, the law of the desert freezes. Even if you are the enemy of the host, even if you have killed a member of his tribe, once you are dakhil, he is bound by honor to defend you. He must stand between you and your pursuers with his own sword. He must feed you, he must keep you safe. To hand over a guest to an enemy is the ultimate shame. It is a stain that would last for generations. The face of the traitor is black, they say. To protect the guest is to whiten the face to purify the honor. There are stories of fathers who protected the killers of their own sons, because the killer asked for hospitality before the identity was known. They fed them, protected them for the mandatory 3 days, and only then, after the guest had left the territory of protection, did the pursuit of justice resume. This is a morality that transcends our modern understanding of law. It places the sanctity of human life and the duty of care above anger, above revenge, above politics. In the vast emptiness, where there are no police, no walls, and no cameras, honor is the only structure that holds the world together. The code of hospitality is the invisible fortress that allows civilization to exist in the wilderness. Now look at the guest. You have drunk the bitter coffee, you have eaten the meat. You are lying on the wool rugs. The fire has died down to a bed of glowing ruby coals. The wind is howling outside, throwing sand against the black fabric, but you do not care. You are safe. You are surrounded by the invisible shield of the host's honor. You can sleep. The host is sitting by the entrance, his back to the wind, keeping watch. He will not sleep until he is sure you are at peace. He is the guardian of the salt. This is the softness hidden within the hardness. The desert is cruel, yes. It tries to kill you with heat and thirst, but the people of the desert, they respond to that cruelty with an aggressive kindness. They fight the void by filling it with generosity. As your eyes grow heavy, listen to the silence of the tent. It is a silence filled with trust. You are no longer a stranger. You are a brother of the fire. You are a part of the tribe, if only for tonight. The coffee pot sits cooling in the sand. The cup is empty. The debt has been paid. Rest now, for in the morning the journey continues. But you will not walk alone. You will carry the strength of the feast and the warmth of the welcome with you. The code has been kept. The desert is still a home.